Hello and welcome to the Africa Soft Power podcast, a show focused on changing narratives and improving realities by incorporating vital and unseen African perspectives into global conversations while strengthening connections with the global diaspora community. My name is Falashade Anozie, and I have here with me Dr. Nkiru Balonwu. She is the founder and creative director of the Africa Soft Power Project. Pleased to have you on the show, Nkiru.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Now, I'm aware that you have a major summit coming up in Kigali, Rwanda, which is on the May 23rd through 27th. But before we get to that part of the conversation, I want to ask how you are doing.
I'm pretty good.
Okay, that's great, because you have quite a lot going on. You have a program going on in Harvard. You have a lot of press interviews coming up, and then you also have board meetings and travel. So I just wanted to know, how are you juggling it all? How are you managing it?
It's a bit manic, but we're here. We got to do what we got to do. So Harvard is actually winding down. Obviously, the summit is amping up. Board meetings they are what they are, and obviously I have clients, and that's also, we're keeping it going.
Because I know that before we came on, you had mentioned that you hate press interviews. Because to get you here, we had to pull. So
I do.
What?
Because I find, it's time consuming, but obviously useful, very important, and I respect your time. So thanks for having me, and thanks for putting this together. But I just feel like it just takes up time, and maybe it's time I want to use to do something else, but this is also important. So I'm not going to begrudge the time, but yeah.
Well, thank you for being here, because I know that you were like, ah. Now, for people who haven't heard about Africa Soft Power, can you talk about what it is and how it started, and actually what inspired you as well?
Thanks. We actually started during COVID. COVID was a bit of a nightmare for everybody. And I would say it was 2020, right? It feels so long ago, but it was towards around May 2020 when the COVID drama was, heating up, and we were all at home. It seemed like, there was nothing going up apart from content. You remember, content. Mm-hmm. Netflix was doing great stuff. There was all of the content wars, and that was really interesting. But it also was, for me, it sparked a moment where it's like, where is Africa's place in all these conversations around content? Obviously, free time. And I think particularly one of the most important things was that I think COVID in itself became like a silver lining, because we could reach almost anybody we wanted, because people had, not that they had spare time, but we just didn't know.
Yeah.
So we were if we got in touch with people oh, would you do this? And sure. People who would not normally have the time had the time, and so it was it was almost like a natural thing that happened.
Yeah. What about because I know Africa Soft Power is made up of 3 different organizations. So you have Africa Soft Power, you have AWB, and then you have Africa Global. Can you talk a bit about those?
So this is true. We have ASP Global, which is formerly RDF, which is our original consulting arm, Africa Soft Power Project, which is focused mostly on creative industries and knowledge, the knowledge economy. How do you use the creative industries to propel Africa forward? I sort of think that America's biggest superpower strength is actually the stories that it tells about itself. So from Hollywood to technology. So when you hear of Meta or Google or just a Hollywood thing, you're thinking, America is the most important. We grew up with the American dream. And so to my mind, what's the Nigerian dream or the African dream? So that's why it was an opportunity, and the focus on creative industries also for me in particular. I would say creative industries for me is young people. Africa is 70% young people. Mm-hmm. And how do you engage them? So music, film, food, fashion, all of that stuff is, the idea behind Africa Soft Power.
Okay, that's great. And one of the things that you've been very particular about is establishing May as Africa Month. Why is that? No, it's fine. Why is that important to you?
Because I think Africa needs, the continent needs its own month, and it needs a whole year. But in particular, the idea came from you have International Women's Month or Women's History Month being March. You have Black History Month in America in February. You have Black History Month in the UK in October. And then you have all sorts of other celebrations. We do have Africa Day on the 25th, which is a day that was established by the AU. So the thinking is, why not the whole month? Like if people around the world celebrated Africa, so if you're in Brazil, in Colombia, in the States, in Canada, in Asia, and you were as an organization or as a person marking that day, marking the month, sort of like, sharing positive images and positive stories about Africa, it then sort of like helps to change the conversation around what the continent is. So that's the whole idea about Africa Month.
Oh. Okay, that's great. That's great to know. Now, this year's Africa Soft Power Summit is happening in Kigali, Rwanda, and it's from May 23rd through the 27th.
Correct.
Can you talk about some of the events or conferences that are going to be happening at this year's summit?
I mean, this year's summit is like, last year we were in Kigali, which was exciting. We had quite a number of days of events, but this year's expanded. This year we've added RAW, which is Remarkable African Women's Leadership Conference, which is focused on the thinking around this is if we're to rethink or if we're to start gender today, what does DEI mean if the first time you engaged the conversation around gender was today, not 20 years ago? So would we still have the same misconceptions, the same, preconceived notions, the same norms, culture? So we're going to be looking at things around behavioral change, systems change, things around knowledge production, data, the gender data gap, particularly when it concerns African women. And so that's what RAW, which is on the 24th of May. Then on the 25th, which is Africa Day, we have our regular Creative Industries Summit. So Creative and Innovative Industry Summit. It's going to focus on film, music, arts, entertainment generally, technology. We think that that's the core of Africa's, youth power, and that's a core focus for us. And in the evening of the 25th, we have the Africa Gala. So the idea is sort of like, I like to say this, but like think the Met Gala, Oscar sort of vibe. This is a dream, but the point is that we don't have anything strong that the world comes to. We end up going to, if something's happening in the world, the Oscars is happening, we all just jump to LA. This is happening, we go there. And who comes to the continent for these things? And we also know that we have to engage people. There's a whole conversation around grassroots movement, which is really important. But we also know that the world goes around these things where celebrity power, influencer power also helps to move conversations. Definitely. So we will not just be doing, Africa is poor. We want to celebrate Africa's rich, vibrant culture, fashion, food, things that elevate us. And in terms of media coverage, given that, glam, where people are coming to us or we're coming to the world as equals, as opposed to, hey, the poor Africans, let's have a charity aid, feed the hungry children. We're not saying we don't have hungry children. We're just saying that there's a balance in the storytelling. Yeah,
so a balance in the storytelling. Yes. Do you have an idea of the dress you're wearing?
I do not. I was just speaking to one of my colleagues about designers, because it's obviously African designers, sustainability. Our theme this year is sustainability. So how do you interpret that as a designer? I'm really excited. I don't know what I'm wearing, but I'm excited to see what it's going to be.
Okay, looking forward to it.
I am too. I'm actually really excited about it. It's a lot of work putting it together, but I'm excited to engage with creatives around the continent, people doing really great things in the diaspora as well. And so for me, it's really exciting. It'll be a dream come true if we pull it. I mean, we will pull it off. It's like, I just want to, I don't want to be working at it. I want to be just participating and hanging out, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Now, you've had some of the biggest thought leaders, government officials, and business leaders at, Africa Soft Power Summit events. And let me read a couple. So you've had the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, His Excellency Wamkele Mene. You've had the Director of I&M Bank Rwanda, Alice Nkuluyinka, two-time NBA All-Star Lowell Deng. You've had the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at National Geographic, Deborah Simmons. You had the U.S. Civil Rights Attorney, Benjamin Crump, President of the Basketball Africa League, Amadou Fall, CEO of NBA Africa, Victor Williams. There's so many people. Your speakers list reads like a who is who of... I don't know.
You didn't say Peltusi, Jadena, people.
Of course, all the young people.
Yeah. Maybe you should redo that because like it sounds like we're stuffed.
No, you've had Peltusi, you've had Jadena. Which other young person have you had? You've had
a whole bunch of young people.
Exactly.
We have one of the coolest people I think is an artist, Ibrahim.
Yes,
So like we've had some really interesting
cool people.
Yeah.
Now, what speakers can people expect to see at this year's summit?
I mean, we're still working on it, but we're going to have some really exciting people turn up. We have our usual suspects, people who have been, who have spoken before. We've confirmed some new voices. We're trying to get quite a number of women in the room because of the Women's Summit. We're also trying to get some tech people in the room. We're trying to get, fashion and hair and beauty is a big thing for us this year. So we're looking at speakers who can speak quite powerfully around the economy of fashion, beauty, the female economy, not just from a designer perspective, but from a business perspective. Yeah. Then we have PEs and VCs. So like for us, a core thing this year is money. Where is the money? How can private capital propel innovation on the continent? So we talk about infrastructure. How do we define infrastructure when it comes to the creative industries? And how do you engage women's agency? I think that if you don't have young people empowered on the continent, and if you don't have women actively participating in decision making, whether it's in communities, whether it's in government, whether it's in the workplace, then we're not going to go anywhere as a continent. So for us, that's the core issues, the core people, young people, and women.
Women make up half the population. So
it
only makes sense. Now, the 2022 summit was in Rwanda, and then this year's summit again is in Rwanda. Can you share what makes Rwanda special to ASB?
Rwanda, because it's easy to get to. It's easy for everybody. Rwanda is an example of strategy. I think as a continent, we haven't really, planned long term. We sort of are not doing things with planning. And what Rwanda shows is planning, what happens when you plan. So Rwanda they're not resource rich, but they have people and they have good thinking. And so for me, Rwanda is easy to get to for people. There are no visas the visa restrictions are quite minor. Anybody can get a visa. I don't know about anybody, but it feels like all of Africa can get a visa to Rwanda. And, the people who are traveling from outside the continent is also easy to get a visa. I think it's visas on arrival. There's very minimal traffic when you're there. It's really safe, really clean. And just an easy place to get around. So why not Rwanda?
Yeah, that makes sense. When you said the visas, I thought of some other unnamed countries. We're both.
We shall remain. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that the summit isn't going to be all about work, because you're someone who's not, all about work. So can you share a bit about some of the fun activities?
Apart from the gala?
Apart from the gala, yes.
There's wildlife in Rwanda. So people who are coming from the States or Canada or the UK or Europe, some of them are interested in the wildlife. I'm not, but they are. So you can go see gorillas in Rwanda. I am paying. I'm Niger. I can't pay money to go and see gorillas. But if you want to see gorillas, they're there. There's some golfing that there's a golfing crew who are coming. I don't play golf, but they're coming. And so they're interested in that. And so we partner with the golf club. There's restaurants. We're going to do quite a number of restaurants. There's the rum tasting, city tours, obviously arts. We're going to do some art exhibition. And of course, really important is the Basketball Africa League finals, or really the whole game is actually on during the same time. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be going to some of the games. And I think it's an incredible time to be in Rwanda, where Africa Soft Power is going to be there. We're going to have some fashion elements, obviously some music. We're going to have DJ, one or two parties. We don't want to talk too loud about the parties. I'm whispering. Mm-hmm. But there's just going to be an incredible amount of things to do. And then obviously we have partners who are going to be hosting side events alongside the summit. Yes, and the basketball games are actually pretty cool. So So yeah.
So it's definitely a great summit for someone to come to. It's not just about the conference, but there are also
there's side events happening. There's actually quite a lot of things happening. We've sort of like curated a whole 1 week of activities, from going to the park. There's a park visit to, if you're interested in the Genocide Museum, that's also part of the itinerary for us. Literally, there's a whole array of things to do. I think the problem would be packing all of those things into the 1 week, but there's going to be a lot.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, for people who are interested in attending the summit, where can they find information?
africasoftpower.com, www.africasoftpower.com. It's very easy, and all the information is there. How to book hotels, what we're going to be doing. Some of the speakers are already being uploaded to the website, and of course, on our social handles, which is Africa Soft Power. And so, there's and obviously, feel free to also email us at asp@africasoftpower.com.
Okay. And what about brands that want to partner with ASP on this summit?
We welcome partners. So yes, africasoftpower.com, asp@africasoftpower.com, and we're quite responsive. There's a team who will respond immediately.
That's great. Any last words before we close?
I'm actually, this has been fun, even though I said I do not like press, but this has been quite fun. You've made it fun. I'm sure I was stammering all through, but hopefully not too bad. I think last words would be thanks for the opportunity, but also looking forward to, making it happen, collaborating with we're collaborating with one of the most exciting people. And it's sort of like for me, the eye-opener has been how many people are reaching out to say they'd like to come and asking how they can partner. And, we've been around the world. We just came from LA we had a pre-Oscar event in Hollywood. And that was really important because people were asking us how they could connect. And there just seems to be that gap, in terms of, Africa to the world and how we're connecting with each other. And so for me, that's what's been really encouraging, the amount of interest, the amount of partners who are coming on board. And for us, our spirit is collaboration. And what can we do together to propel the continent and to tell our story the way we want to tell it? And I think that's what, for me, I keep learning every day new things and meeting some really amazing people. So we're really excited. I'm feeling quite privileged, even though it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's all about that bridge building, as you rightly said.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Nkiru, for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And for more information on how to attend the Africa Soft Power Summit, please visit the africasoftpowerproject.com. And for more information about Africa Soft Power, please visit africasoftpower.com. And of course, you can find us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Africa Soft Power. Thank you so much.